My name is Ethan Caldwell, and I never thought I'd be the kind of man spilling my private life to strangers online. But after what happened in Austin, Texas, I realized my story isn't just mine, it's a warning. Last month, the person I trusted more than anyone, my wife of 6 years, Vanessa, betrayed me in a way that shook the foundation of everything we built, and how it all unfolded. It wasn't just personal, it was humiliatingly public. I had been funding her dream. Lifestyle designer handbags, weekend spa trips, even the new personal trainer she insisted was changing her life. Turns out, he was, just not in the way I paid for, and instead of exploding in rage, I chose silence, but not the kind they expected. Vanessa and I met in college. She was a vivacious marketing major who could light up any room, and I was a steady finance student who preferred quiet dinners over crowded parties. We balanced each other in ways that felt almost cinematic. She introduced me to spontaneous road trips and rooftop cocktails. I grounded her with routines and quiet nights, and after graduation, I landed a high-paying job at an investment firm, and Vanessa decided to pursue a more flexible career in freelance design. I was proud to support her. It felt natural to shoulder the financial load, so she could focus on her passions without stress. We bought a 3-bedroom house in a gated neighborhood, the kind with manicured lawns and smiling neighbors who waved every morning. Vacations became annual rituals: Italy in the spring, Bali in the summer. Every anniversary was marked with something extravagant: jewelry, weekend getaways, candlelit dinners at 5-star restaurants. To outsiders, we were the couple who had it all. Behind the scenes, I paid the mortgage, the car, the utilities, the groceries, everything. If Vanessa wanted a new designer bag or a spa retreat, I didn't think twice. I saw it as love, not a ledger. I thought trust meant not questioning. What I didn't realize was that while I was giving her financial freedom, she was using it to cultivate a double life, one where I unknowingly bankrolled not just her lifestyle, but the perfect cover for the affair that would eventually shatter everything I believed about us. Before everything unraveled, life felt like a perfectly choreographed dance. I'd wake up early, grind fresh coffee beans, and make us each a mug, hers with oat milk and a splash of vanilla syrup, mine black and strong. I'd kiss her goodbye while she lingered in her robe, scrolling through her phone or jotting down ideas for design projects. My workdays were long, filled with numbers, client meetings, and deadlines, while Vanessa's schedule seemed fluid: yoga one morning, lunch with friends the next, then a burst of creativity that had her working late into the night. About 6 months before it all came crashing down, she decided to hire a personal trainer named Derek. She described him as exactly the kind of coach she needed to stay motivated. I met him once in passing, tall, fit, charming in a way that seemed harmless at the time. She came home after sessions buzzing with energy, flushed cheeks, and a grin that I chalked up to endorphins. She started sharing more workout selfies, posting gym check-ins, and talking about her fitness journey like it was a new religion. I felt proud of her. I thought she was investing in herself, and I was happy to foot the bill. I didn't see the subtle shifts: longer training sessions, last-minute cancellations of our plans, a sudden upgrade in her workout wardrobe. In my head, we were still the same couple, planning anniversary trips and debating whether to adopt a dog. I thought love and trust were unshakable pillars. What I didn't know was that, beneath the surface, those pillars were already crumbling, and the cracks, they had a name. The first cracks were so subtle, they almost blended into the background of our busy lives. Vanessa started guarding her phone like it contained nuclear codes. She used to leave it lying face up on the kitchen counter while she cooked or scrolled through Pinterest. Now it was always face down, notifications silenced, and never more than an arm's reach away. At first, I told myself it was nothing, maybe she was just more mindful about privacy. Then came the late-night workouts. Vanessa had never been a night owl. She used to be in bed by 10 with a face mask and a book. Suddenly, Derek's training sessions stretched into the late hours, and when I suggested tagging along, she laughed and said it would throw off her focus. It was the kind of laugh that was a little too quick, a little too rehearsed. There were other changes: receipts for luxury athleisure brands, expensive supplements, spa treatments, and skincare lines she'd never shown interest in before. I figured maybe she was just investing in herself. I wanted to believe that. One night, I passed by the study and heard her voice, soft, low, playful in a way I hadn't heard in months. It wasn't her client voice, the one she used for business calls. It was different, more intimate. When I stepped into the doorway, she startled, fumbled for her phone, and mumbled something about a design consultation before hanging up. My gut churned with unease. but my mind worked overtime to rationalize it. I was tired. I was overthinking. I was scared. Denial is a warm blanket when the truth promises to freeze you, and I wasn't ready to step out into the cold just yet. The truth slammed into me on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday afternoon. A power outage at the office sent me home hours earlier than usual. As I turned onto our street, Derek's black pickup sat in front of our house like a warning I didn't want to read. Vanessa had told me he was moving across town that day. My stomach tightened into a hard knot. I parked quietly, slipping in through the side door. The first thing I heard was her laughter, drifting from upstairs. It wasn't casual or polite. It was soft, breathy, and far too familiar. My pulse quickened with every step up the staircase. The bedroom door was open just enough for me to see Vanessa, wearing the lingerie I'd given her for our anniversary, was straddling Derek like I had ceased to exist. The wine glasses on the nightstand, the crumpled sheets, the smug curl of his lips, every detail seared itself into my brain. I didn't crash in. I didn't yell. My legs carried me backwards, step by careful step, until I was outside again. The air felt heavy, thick with a truth I didn't want but couldn't escape. I drove aimlessly until I found myself at a park. A few miles away, I sat on a bench, hands trembling, my breath coming in short bursts. Anger, shame, and disbelief wrestled inside me. Was I more furious at her for betraying me or at myself for never seeing the signs? Somewhere in that chaos, a thought settled in. If this marriage was going to end, it wouldn't end in screaming or tears. It would end on my terms, and they would never see it coming. Vanessa had no idea I'd already seen everything. That ignorance was my weapon. For the next week, I played the part of the doting fiancé flawlessly. Morning kisses, casual check-ins, dinner together like always. My performance was Oscar-worthy. Every I love you was delivered with a steady voice, even as I silently built a case against her. I became a quiet archivist of betrayal. Screenshots of her flirty captions with Derek, tagged photos from mutual friends, credit card statements that lined up with their secret meetups. I even saved the pictures I'd snapped that afternoon her in my anniversary lingerie. Him smirking like a man who thought he'd already won. The moment to strike came sooner than I expected. A mutual friend invited us to a birthday dinner at a trendy downtown restaurant. Vanessa looked radiant. Derek happened to be there, and I watched their glances quick, loaded, electric when they thought no one noticed. That's when my fury sharpened into strategy. Confronting them in private would only give them room to twist the story, to hide behind half-truths. No, they had chosen to humiliate me in plain sight, so I would return the favor with precision, control, and an audience they couldn't escape. If they were bold enough to turn me into the punchline of a joke, I'd make sure the laughter ended on my terms. The days after uncovering the truth felt like I'd been dropped into deep water. Sounds dulled, movement sluggish, every breath a conscious effort. I'd sit at my desk, eyes glazed over spreadsheets, my fingers typing numbers I'd have to erase because I couldn't remember a single one. Meals were just mechanical motions, chewing without tasting, swallowing without hunger. Nights were the most brutal. I'd lie rigid beside her, the darkness amplifying every whisper of doubt. Her breathing was slow, peaceful, like she hadn't just detonated the foundation of our life. My mind replayed every memory through a new jag lens. Every I love you now felt like a prop in a play I didn't know I was in. The erosion of my self-worth was almost physical, like a weight on my chest I couldn't push off. Friends began noticing my withdrawal, asking if I was okay. I kept my answers clipped, just tired. Work's been crazy, but in the privacy of my therapist's office, I spoke the truth. I wasn't only furious, I was humiliated. This wasn't a secret wound. It had been a public performance, and I'd been cast as the oblivious fool. Somewhere between the numbness and the anger, a thought began to crystallize. Silence didn't have to mean surrender. It could be a blade sharp, patient, invisible, until the moment it cut deepest, and if I used it right, she'd never see it coming. I began with the kind of patience that felt almost unnatural for me. Each move was intentional, methodical. The first layer was evidence: every receipt, every transfer, every bank statement that tied my money to her self-improvement routine, gym memberships, spa packages, high-end activewear, all the luxuries she flaunted while spending hours. With Derek, I went further, combing through her social media like an archivist handling rare documents. Old captions, filtered selfies, and workout updates suddenly carried a hidden language: smirks, hashtags, and wings that now made perfect sense. Everything went into a single, encrypted folder on my laptop. blandly titled for later. That folder wasn't just proof, it was a weapon. I knew that when the time came. She tried to rewrite the story, paint me as bitter, controlling, or worse. My job was to make sure the truth spoke louder than any performance she could put on. I avoided anything impulsive. No late-night confrontations, no passive-aggressive jabs, outwardly. I was the same partner I'd always been, attentive enough to keep her comfortable, distant enough to give her the rope she needed. The beauty of the plan was its simplicity. I wouldn't destroy her outright. I'd just pull the supporting beams out from under a carefully curated image. The real sting wouldn't come from my words, it would come from her own actions, laid out so plainly that even she couldn't twist them into something noble. And by the time she realized the walls were collapsing, it would be far too late for damage control. When the timing felt surgical, I made my move. I sent out casual invites to a small birthday dinner for Vanessa's family and a few close friends. She lit up when I told her. In her mind, I was still the doting partner, planning something sweet. The night arrived warm and easy, laughter spilling over wine glasses. We ate, toasted, and she basked in the attention. Then I announced I had a little surprise, a trip down memory lane. I set my laptop on the coffee table, connected it to the TV, and hit play. At first, the slideshow was exactly what everyone expected: vacations, anniversaries, silly selfies. The room hummed with nostalgia. Then, without warning, the tone shifted. A screenshot of a late-night text with Derek. Another flirtation so blatant they didn't need commentary. Gas cut through the air. The next slides were receipts, high-end athleisure, spa treatments. Weekend getaways, every one of them purchased on my card. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't narrate. I let the images and numbers hang in the silence, letting each one land. Like a punch, her face strained, her confident smile collapsing into panic. Her mother covered her mouth and fled the room. One of our friends stared at the floor as if looking directly at her would make him complicit. When the final slide faded to black, I spoke for the first time. This is why I'm leaving. No speech, no argument, just the truth stripped bare. I walked into the bedroom, unzipped a bag I'd packed earlier, and slung it over my shoulder. She followed, whispering frantic explanations that died in her throat when she saw I wasn't listening. I walked past her, past the table still set for dessert, and out the door, leaving her surrounded by the wreckage of the life she'd built on my dime. 2 days later, my phone lit up with a stream of messages, paragraph after paragraph from Vanessa. Apologies bled into excuses. She blamed the stress of work, the loneliness when I was too busy, and finally, my supposed neglect of her needs. Every sentence twisted the knife a little more, not because I believed her, but because I recognized the pattern. Her need to reshape the story before it got away from her. The trainer was less poetic. One curt email, she told me you two were separated. That was it, no remorse. No shame, just the kind of casual lie you toss out to make yourself feel clean. I didn't reply to either of them. Not a word. The part of me that used to crave answers was gone. This wasn't about closure anymore, it was about control. And I finally had all of it. Through friends, I heard she'd been scrambling to clear her name, claiming the slideshow was out of context, that I'd misunderstood. But the damage was irreversible. Screenshots of the entire presentation had found their way into group chats, Facebook threads, even an email chain among her extended family. Every attempt to rewrite history crashed against the same wall, the undeniable evidence she had provided herself. For the first time since I discovered the betrayal, the silence between us wasn't mine to bear. It was hers, and I made sure it stayed that way. I moved into a small apartment overlooking the park. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Every rent payment, every lamp, every chair bought with money I earned. The quiet was different here. It wasn't the suffocating kind I'd felt in our old bedroom. It was the kind that let me hear my own thoughts without her voice cutting through them. I threw myself into work, not as an escape, but as a way to rebuild something solid under my feet. Evenings were for the boxing gym, where every punch felt like a piece of the weight lifting off my chest. On weekends, I reconnected with friends I'd neglected: dinners, hikes, movie nights where laughter didn't feel forced. Vanessa became background noise. Every now and then, someone would casually mention seeing her at a bar alone, or hearing whispers that the trainer had moved on. I never asked for details. It wasn't indifference out of bitterness, it was genuine freedom. I had stopped measuring my recovery against her downfall. I realized healing doesn't come from waiting for your betrayer to hurt. It comes from filling your own life so fully that they have no room in it. My apartment was small, my routine simple, but everything in it was mine. No lies attached, no debt of trust to repay. For the first time in years, I could look in the mirror and see someone I recognized, someone who had been betrayed. Yes, but someone who had walked away on his own terms and never looked back. Betrayal isn't just the breaking of trust, it's the quiet theft of the story you thought was yours. One day, you wake up realizing the version of events you've been living in was never real. That's the part that stings the most, not just what they did, but how long they let you believe the lie. I learned that reclaiming your story doesn't always mean confronting them in a blaze of fury. Sometimes the most powerful move is to step off the stage they've trapped you on and let them perform alone. My silence wasn't weakness, it was precision. It denied her the chaos she could twist against me. If you've been betrayed, remember, you don't have to light the bridge on fire. You can just walk away, leaving their world to collapse under the weight of their own choices. And that's how my wife's champagne-soaked, gym-tinted double life collapsed right there in our dining room, with her staring at the evidence she never thought I'd gather. Some people would have confronted her the moment they saw the first red flag. Others would have burned everything down in a public explosion. I chose patience. I let the truth ripen until it couldn't be denied, then placed it in her lap without a single raised voice. It was the cleanest cut I've ever made. Now I wonder, if you were in my shoes, would you have done the same? Would you have sat in silence, building the perfect moment, or dropped the bomb the second you knew? And here's the real question. In the long run, do you think silence leaves a deeper scar than shouting ever could?